All right, welcome back to another episode of the Black Bullion Show for goldandsilvertoday.com. Check that website out, everybody. This is the United States. Many of us who are not from here may be surprised at the state of our wealth inequality and vanishing middle class. Our country is known as the land of opportunity, where most can come here and increase their standard of living if they work hard and smart. For example, here's an ad showcasing how historical this idea is within America. It shows the potential trajectory of someone if they decided to choose vocational school or not. Now more than ever, that idea of getting ahead through opportunity is extremely important, given that our wealth is slowly being sucked away since our money is no longer tied to gold. And if our money is constantly being devalued through ungodly amounts of printing, then we need to earn more just to keep our head above water. So, in comes the argument for minimum wage and its need to increase in order to keep up with the inflationary times. The idea is a noble one. Give those who are working lower paid jobs a minimum wage so that they can have a leg to stand on within the economy. The idea even goes further when talking about living wages and tacking that wage to the cost of living within a particular state. But this isn't the end. Eventually, minimum and living wages will need to keep up with the inflationary times. And that, my friends, is the true source of the problem. Inflation. As some like to call it, our monetary methadone. We just can't get enough of it. Now, there are two problems in the realm of employment that get born out of inflation that I would like to focus on in this video. 1. Cost of living, i.e., goods and services, go up for the everyday employee. 2. Cost of doing business, i.e., goods and services, go up for everyday employers. We've already discussed everyday employees and the struggles. Most people seem to be aware of that side of the argument and that side of the coin. But let's talk about business a little bit. As far as employers are concerned, let's focus our talk primarily on small businesses, as they employ most Americans anyway. And this video is timely given that Saturday is Small Business Day in America. Now, in 2019, according to the Small Business Credit Survey conducted by 12 Federal Reserve banks, 70% of small businesses at the time had outstanding debt. This was in 2019. Here's additional information provided by smallbizgenius.net about the Federal Reserve report, and I quote, "According to the recently published research, which polled 6,614 small business owners employing less than 500 workers from all 50 states and the District of Columbia, a majority of small businesses faced financial challenges last year. As many as 64% of them reported struggling financially, with operating expenses being the number one problem, 40%, followed by credit availability, 31%, and making payments on debt, 29%. In order to address those financial issues, 69% of small businesses used personal funds. 45% took out additional credit. 32% cut staff, hours, and or downsized operations, while 28% made a late payment or failed to make a payment altogether. So, if you thought our debt-fueled existence was just a problem for the everyday worker, you may be surprised to hear how much of a problem it is for employers. What was one of their solutions for dealing with their burden? It was cutting hours, cutting staff, and downsizing. Before doing that, many would actually take on additional debt. And before doing that, many would dip into their personal funds in order to cover these things. These don't really sound like entities that have the funding to increase minimum wages for workers on a consistent basis. So, how exactly did businesses wind up in this trap? Well, we have to go back to capital and its cost. If 70% of small businesses in the United States have debt outstanding, then that tells you that the cost of acquiring that capital is fairly low. Anecdotally speaking, I can tell you how cheap it is to acquire debt. I've registered businesses within states here in the United States, and one wasn't even that profitable. It didn't matter. I've received letters in the mail saying that I had pre-qualified for up to $250,000 in business credit. Banks and non-bank lenders are practically giving away the money because they know that they will make money on the difference between how much it costs them to acquire the capital and how much they're charging you to take it off their hands. Okay, so what happens after these businesses acquire the capital? Well, they're going to have to invest it in equipment and employees. So little do many employees know, many of our wages are actually debt financed as well. But we're none the wiser. We think our greedy bosses are taking the lion's share of our wealth when they're really dipping into their own pockets to keep the lights on. So being oblivious to this, we take our new cash and bid up prices of goods and services, aka cost of living. And it's not just us. Businesses also bid up prices of goods and services within supply chains as more customers pay them with their debt-fueled wages. And the insidious inflation trap begins to take root. This cycle continues to the point where people see prices for goods and services, aka cost of living, climb to astronomical levels. Sure, some very fortunate people can afford these items, or perhaps their credit score allows them to take on debt that may be out of reach for others. But in any event, the argument for a minimum or living wage presents itself as a solution. So now knowing what you know about 70% of small businesses as of 2019, aka the largest employers in America, being burdened by debt, the minimum or living wage solution becomes a little bit more complex. Personally, I don't think that a minimum wage or living wage solves the problem being inflation. Unfortunately, I don't see any major politicians discussing this at all. I honestly believe that it is one of the largest drivers of wealth inequality in this country. Those who own financial assets know exactly what I'm talking about. Obviously, none of us here work at the Federal Reserve, unless Jerome Powell happens to be watching this video. If so, how's it going, Jerome? The best that we can do is protect ourselves against the wealth eroding effects of inflation. What are some of the ways that you like to protect yourself against inflation? Let me know in the comment section below, and hopefully we can give others some ideas as well. Thanks again for watching. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you're new. It's Black Bullion for goldandsilvertoday.com.